you, in 1973, were you still counsel to President Nixon when Roe v. Wade was decided by the court?
I was.
Do you
No, excuse me. Yes, that was January of 73.
Yes.
And what's interesting is it went right under the radar. Only person who reacted was Pat Buchanan.
Well, John Dean, we have to take another quick break. Can we bring you back and talk about that on the other side, and that
Sure.
This is probably going to the courts? This is Shannyn Moore. You're listening to us here at KOAN, 1020 AM, 95.5 FM. Also, We Act Radio and 1480 AM in Washington, D.C. and Netroots Radio. We'll be right back with more with Mr. Dean. Welcome back. 35 minutes after the hour. I'm the luckiest girl in the whole wide world. John Dean has said he'd spend a couple more minutes with him, so I'm thrilled. He was counsel to President Nixon from 1970 to 1973, and Roe v. Wade was decided in that time. It's interesting, John, that your job was to explain what the court was doing to the president.
Well, I had a pretty good source to rely on too. Was Solicitor General of the United States, who argues the cases in front of the court. So what I would do is we'd actually send somebody up to my office to get the slip opinion. So I had a copy of the opinion. Typically, the Solicitor General got his about the same time we did at the White House. We'd both read them furiously. If I had any questions, then I'd call the Solicitor General's office and either talk to the SG or I would talk to one of his deputies. And since they'd argued the case, they would know pretty much what was going on. But Roe, as I said before the break, really went right under the radar. The only person that picked it up was Pat Buchanan, and that was not as much as his conservatism as his Catholicism picked it up right away and began telling the president that he thought this was an issue that the right would have a strong reaction to, and certainly conservative Catholics were. But Roe was very slow in developing into an issue. And then it became a major issue, of course.
Well,
and still is.
Right. I mean, it became this platform. We've talked, to Francis Schaeffer about what his parents did with this, and just how it turned politics. That decision of Roe v. Wade really did motivate a tremendous amount of the evangelicals, and it still does. And when we're looking at across the country right now, all these states are just taking women's rights away.
They're eviscerating Roe, slowly but surely. I the other day tweeted that somebody should start doing to Citizens United what the right has done to Roe, and that is just start nibbling away at it. I understand, was it North or South Dakota today? The governor signed a bill for something like now it's down to 6 weeks.
It's down to 6 weeks. It also, if you are an abortion doctor or you provide abortion services, clearly you'd be a doctor to do that. You have to have hospital privileges. It's 6 weeks or under. I know many women that don't know that they're pregnant until after 6 weeks. And that you cannot have an abortion based on gender, which really, is anybody doing that? But also for things like malformities like Down syndrome. So that right to choose from families, not just women, has been taken away in North Dakota.
Well, it's a very inconsistent position that conservatives take on abortion. They are all freedom-loving people and want the government out of everybody's life, but they somehow want to be in every woman's pants, if you excuse the expression, and tell them what they can or cannot do in the bedroom. It's just really quite remarkable. There are a lot of the right wants to go back, and deal with contraception even and outlaw that. It just makes no ideological consistent sense for them to take the positions they do on so many issues where they want the government out of your life, but yet on this issue they want the government squarely in your life.
Right. Government's small enough it'll fit in your hoo-hoo.
Exactly.
If you'll pardon the expression. But it's things like you said, like IUD or fertility treatments now because of a personhood bill that life begins and you have personhood at conception, which to me is like, well, then why can't you drink when you're 20 years old and 3 months? Because really your life started when you were a zygote. You know what I mean? It's like, do we start having different birthdays? Are our new birthdays going to be the day we were conceived? And what if, for
the right, it seems life starts with conception and incorporation.
Right, but
since corporations are people too.
Right, but tends to stop if you're a child born to people in poverty who can't afford food, or
you're just not relevant then. After you're actually born into a unfortunate set of circumstances.
So we sort of have this Handmaid's Tale thing happening.
It's, as I say, there is absolutely nothing consistent about right-wing thinking. It's quite distressing, and you can't argue with these people. They leap when I did the book on conservatives without conscience, one of the issues I deal with is how irrational their arguments are. How they, and I really started that book because I was a longtime friend and still a friend with the son of the late Senator Barry Goldwater, who became very distressed with what the right was doing, particularly the religious right, with the movement that he started. He was a libertarian. He did not, he couldn't even. They wouldn't have him in the Tea Party today. Because his position he was in favor of Planned Parenthood. His wife started Planned Parenthood in Phoenix and supported it right up until he died. He actually thought any woman should make the choice herself if she wanted to have an abortion or not. And so he would not fit in the movement. And anyway, I started doing that book with him because he was so upset with what had become of the conservative movement, and how in one of our conversations he was saying, they just don't have any conscience anymore. And I said, Senator, that's a great title for our whatever we do. I said it's a play on your book, Conscience of a Conservative, to now do the flip of it, or conservatives without conscience, because the conservative once did have a conscience. But that's no longer relevant today. Anyway, so that I deal with the fact that they can take totally inconsistent positions, and they don't even see it that way. Because they believe in the correctness of their position overturns any inconsistency in their thinking.